Last year, according to Stats Canada, there were 88 cases of sexual assault brought to the attention of the RCMP. 88 complaints. Of those complaints, 35 were dismissed by the RCMP as being unfounded, as though they had never happened. That's 40%. Around the province, that number is 15%. And in Vancouver and Victoria, much lower than that. So the question is raised, why are so many sexual assault cases being dismissed in this way when they come to the Kelowna RCMP?
It's disappointing. It's not surprising, however. I've been working in this field for a long time, and although Kelowna may stand out in comparison to larger areas that have specialized units, I think it's not too surprising.
Can you give any explanation as to how such a high number could come about? What's going on to the people, mostly women, that would, say, hey, I've had this sexual assault happen? How does it wind up in that pile?
Well, I think part of it is training. It's a training issue, and we've been working with the RCMP on that for a couple of years. Sexual assault is a very traumatic crime. It's the most devastating crime that can happen other than murder. And it has a huge post-traumatic impact. And there's not a lot of awareness about how a victim reacts and how they process information when they're traumatized. So often this victim can seem incoherent, their story can be disjointed, they may remember things a day or 2 or 3 later, or even longer, that makes their story change. So they're often seen as maybe not telling the truth or inconsistent, and they're difficult cases to investigate. So I think part of the problem and part of the solution is training, particularly in trauma-informed practice.
So these very indicators, like a changing story, a person who isn't well trained might see that makes them just an unreliable witness, whereas someone who's trained might see that as, yes, that's exactly what you might expect to see in someone who's been through a trauma.
Absolutely. I've been with women at the hospital and at the police station where they're completely in shock. And you can just see their mind is still trying to figure out what exactly happened and how this happened. And at that point, having somebody talk to them who doesn't believe them and questions them the way that police need to question about details of what happened and such, it's just overwhelming. And it deepens the traumatic impact when they feel not believed or blamed for what happened to them.
So these numbers are from last year, but looking at them, you would say that definitely says that there's a problem?
We've known there's been a problem. There's a problem in society, and the RCMP and any police department is a reflection of society and the values and beliefs of our society. We've been working for a couple of years with the RCMP and with School District 23 around the number of teens that are sexually assaulted. The highest risk age is 14 to 24, and in fact even younger these days. And so we've put together a protocol and some training. We've done training, 3 sessions, I believe, with the RCMP, with different members, and several sessions with school district personnel. So and it's a slow start. It's a small start, but it is part of a longer-term plan, and I believe we're making a difference.
One thing that stands out to me is that, if I understand it correctly, if someone complains that they were sexually assaulted, their case will be handled by whichever constable happens to be there to take the call.
That's right.
They don't go straight to a specialist?
Not unless they're under 13, then they'll go to the child abuse team. But otherwise, they don't go to anyone with specialized training or understanding around the dynamic and devastating impact of sexual assault.
And what sort of training would your average rank and file constable have specifically about sexual assault files?
Well, the last time we asked about it and looked into it, it was less than a day out of their full time at depot. They're expected to get training in those specialized things later on. The problem is that they're not. Unless they have a specialized service in a community, they're pretty much coming out with that day or half a day from their training.
Another concern that arises is that people will hear about this and think that, whoa, maybe I shouldn't go to the police, that there's a 40% chance they're not going to believe me.
That's a big concern for us. In fact, our staff was talking about this morning, worrying that women wouldn't come forward and that it would get even worse. Sexual assault is also already a very reported crime. Nationally, it's under 10% that actually make it to the police. So we'd like to make sure that women know that we're available here at EFRI. We can help them with the impact. We can help them prepare to do their statement, and we can go with them to the police, make things go a little smoother, hopefully.
Right, and you have indicated a few times here that you've been working with the police. These are 2018 numbers,
Yes.
and they've been open to some criticism, and they're working on improving things, and there's optimism that things are getting better?
Yes, I believe there's a will. The higher up people that we're working with at the detachment have committed to working on this. They've signed off on a local protocol. They've let us use their services to do the training in-house, and I think we're on a road to make a difference.